You can laugh all you want, but this is obviously no laughing matter. Did you notice the disturbing similarities between Hitler's healthcare policies and Obama's proposed healthcare plan? Did you recall that under Hitler's healthcare policies, the physicians were required to fill out questionnaires on patients that were ill 5 or more years to determine which of these ill individuals should be exterminated? And how under Obama's healthcare plan, state physicians would be required to counsel patients that have been ill 5 or more years on how they can reduce their nutrition intake, reduce their hydration, and simply implement other measures which would subsequently induce a slow death. Both of these healthcare policies are nothing short of sick. Now you may be wondering, what does this have to do with some sinister plot that Obama has in supporting homosexuals and LGBT rights? Well, when you look at the big picture, you realize that it has a lot to do with it. Clearly, it is easy to see the obvious similarities between Hitler's healthcare plan and Obama's. But what may not be as clear to see for the majority of you out there is that there are a variety of issues upon which the former Führer of the Nazi Party and the current president of the leading nation of the free world hold in common. And one of these issues happens to be the embracing of homosexuality. What most people are not aware of is that Nazism embraced homosexuality. To the Nazis, homosexuality was looked upon as a path to higher consciousness and superhuman power. In the book The Pink Swastika, written by Kevin Abrams on the topic of Nazism and homosexuality, we read, "It was no coincidence that homosexuals were among those who founded the Nazi Party. In fact, the party grew out of a number of groups in Germany which were centers of homosexual activity and activism. Many of the characteristic rituals, symbols, activities, and philosophies we associate with Nazism came from these organizations or from contemporary homosexuals. The extended arm, Sieg Heil salute, for example, was a ritual of the Wandervogel, which means wandering birds or rovers, a male youth society which became the German equivalent of the Boy Scouts. The Wandervogel was started in the late 1800s by a group of homosexual teenagers. Its first adult leader, Karl Fischer, called himself Der Führer, the leader. Hans Blüher, a homosexual Nazi philosopher and important early member of the Wandervogel, incited a sensation in 1912 with the publication of The German Wandervogel Movement as an Erotic Phenomenon, which told how the movement had become one in which young boys could be introduced into the homosexual lifestyle. The Wandervogel and other youth organizations were later merged into the Hitler Youth, which itself became known among the populace as the Homo Youth because of rampant homosexuality. The fact that the Nazi movement embraced homosexuality may understandably come as a shock to many of you, because from the common historical accounts that we hear, we are told that the Nazis murdered homosexuals, which is very true. But what you don't hear is that the homosexuals which were despised and murdered by the Nazis were those that were effeminate. It was the butch-styled homosexual that found acceptance and was looked upon by the Nazis as a means of obtaining a higher state of consciousness and superhuman power. And this concept was one that they adopted from the Occult Theosophical Society that was started by Madame Blavatsky. It was Madame Blavatsky's Theosophical Society that decades before the Nazi Party were responsible for producing the first German publication bearing the swastika on its cover. The occult prophetess Madame Blavatsky was also the individual responsible for the implied definition of the swastika. She defined it as the sign of creation, the mystical destiny of the Aryan man. It was these occult beliefs that were born within Madame Blavatsky's Theosophical Society that provided the framework for Nazism and Hitler's ideologies. Though Hitler posed as a Christian, he was undoubtedly a New Age occultist. The origin of the well-known Nazi SS can be traced back to Guido von List, who was a well-known occultist and adherent to the teachings of the Theosophical Society. And there is a clear similarity in List's and Hitler's beliefs. Guido von List believed in renouncing Christianity and returning to the pagan religions of the ancient Europeans. And Hitler himself is quoted as saying, "The old beliefs will be brought back again. The whole secret knowledge of nature, of the divine, of the demonic. We will wash off the Christian veneer and bring out a religion peculiar to our race." Notice Hitler said, "We will wash off the Christian veneer." A veneer is a cover or a disguise with an attractive appearance. This was the type of Christianity that Hitler had. It was a disguise to sneak in and promote his New Age occult agenda. So, in 1928, when Hitler said, "We are a people of different faiths, but we are one. We tolerate no one in our ranks that will attack Christians. In fact, our movement is Christian." When he made these statements, he was using the cover of Christianity to promote his occult ideologies, which included, as he said in his own words, the destruction of Christianity. This was the same aim of Madame Blavatsky and her Theosophical Society. And it was also the same aim of Madame Blavatsky's occult successor, Alice A. Bailey, the founder of Lucis Trust, an occult organization that currently has its headquarters within the United Nations. The objectives of this organization, Lucis Trust, have been codified and embodied in the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights and in the United Nations Charter. Alice A. Bailey, the founder of the occult organization Lucis Trust, developed 10 strategies to establish a new world order.